In today's video, we are going to be covering the basics of shaping, and we are going to be shaping the most popular nail shapes in the industry, which is currently Coffin, Stiletto, and Tapered square. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and clip that nail on down to the desired length. I'm using a traditional straight edge clipper because my other artificial tip cutter broke, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. So now that I've cut those tips down to the desired length, I'm going to go ahead and just straighten up the tip of the nail. Go ahead and file it to get it a little bit more even. I feel like that will helps when it comes to shaping, having a nice even, everything is even. Really helps because you don't want that shape to be thrown off, not even slightly. So I'm just filing it to make sure that tip is nice and even. So now that that's completed, I'm ready to go ahead and begin shaping. So I'm using a straight edge nail clipper, and I feel like this is a tool that every nail tech should have. A straight edge nail clipper, meaning that edge right there is straight. Some nail clippers are going to be curved, but you want the straight one. You can find them pretty much anywhere. I did order this one off from Amazon though, but I am using a straight edge nail clipper. So if you don't have one, definitely get you one. All right. So the first shape that we are going to begin with is the coffin shape or the ballerina shape. As you know, that tip is very narrow. So when it comes to cutting or trying to achieve that shape, it's all about the angle that you hold the nail clipper. And by angle, I mean you just want to slightly tilt that nail clipper inward so that it is at a certain angle, and you want to maintain that same angle as you're cutting along basically an invisible line. So that definitely helps, as well as to go ahead and envision the shape, and then you just want to tilt the nail clipper and just cut along that invisible line until you get to the very tip of the nail tip. You should want to begin cutting right at that meaty parts of your client's nail or even your nails. As you can see here, that's basically where I'm cutting on this practice finger. So you want to begin cutting there, and again, you just want to cut along that invisible line there, holding the nail clipper at a slight angle. Then you're going to go ahead, once you finish that side, you're going to move on to the opposite side and do the same thing. Now, when it comes to coffin and ballerina, each client has a preference as far as how narrow they want it to be. Some are going to want it more narrow than others. Some are going to want it more wider than others. It all depends on your client. So I definitely recommend asking your client how narrow you want they want that coffin shape to be, rather than just assuming that everyone is going to like what you like. So that's definitely another tip that I will give for you. Me, I don't like mine's too narrow or too skinny. So I feel like this is a good width for me. So now that that's finished, we've clipped the shape out. We're going to go ahead and grab a file, and we're just going to file it, make it nice and crisp. Filing the tip beforehand can definitely save you some time after you apply that acrylic, since everything is pretty much already together. So I definitely recommend filing the shape before you apply that acrylic. So I am using an 80 grit nail file, and my tip for when you are filing your nails, make sure you're holding that file parallel to the nail, and you want to press pretty firmly. You want to hold it parallel. You want to make sure that it's straight, because sometimes if it's not straight and it's not parallel to the nail, what's going to happen is it's going to round out the shape, and that's something that you don't want. So make sure that nail file is parallel to the nail tip, and you're pressing pretty firmly. Sometimes in longer nails, You may have to kind of do it in little sections a little bit because of course the nail is super long, and that's completely fine. But you just want to make sure that you press that nail file firmly against the nail tip, just like how I'm doing here. When filing, I try to file the whole entire nail rather than doing it in sections, and I do that by holding my file horizontally and doing long strokes. But sometimes, you know, some things just don't seem to be thinning out or getting right. So at that point, I will go ahead and hold my file vertically and do it in sections, just so I can achieve what I'm desiring. You know, I like my shape nice and crisp. And for the tip here, I just use the nail tip cutter instead of just filing that part, just because it was easier, it made more sense. But that is how you get a coffin shape. So next we're gonna move on to the next shape, which is the stiletto. This is personally one of my favorites. Now with the stilettos, I do like to start at the very bottom of the tip, and that is because, you know, the stiletto, you have the point. The point is what's most important. So I start where that point is going to be, and then I work my way up. So start where the point is going to be and then work your way up. Just like with the last shape, you're going to visualize that invisible line, and you're just going to move that nail clipper along that invisible line right on upward. So start at that point, and then we're going to clip upward on that invisible line. Make sure that nail clipper is nice and slanted so that it comes right on out on the other side perfectly. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to the other side. Now, as you can see, this is not as much of a stiletto, and that's because I'm going to do it again, of course. I just like to make sure that that point is being maintained. I see it in my mind, and I'm not trying to mess that up, because there's nothing like a crooked stiletto, and that's what we don't want. So after cutting this side, I'm going to move back onto the opposite side, and we're going to begin again. Now, some clients may like their nails like this. It's all about preference. Different clients prefer different things, but me, I want mine pointing to the gods, okay? So we're just gonna repeat that process one more time. And again, it's all about preference. Your client may see the nail like this and say, hey, I really like that, let's keep it like this, because not everyone likes their stilettos super pointy. Some people like them rounded off. I am not one of those people. I want mine pointy, okay? I should be able to undo a lock with my nails. That's how pointy I want them. So now that is the desired shape, I'm going to go ahead and grab that nail file. Again, I'm using the 80/80 grit. Again, you want to press that nail file firmly against the nail tip, keeping that nail file nice and parallel to the nail, just so that we're not rounding out the shape. How to get a crisp shape is to press that nail file firmly against the nail tip, and I kind of had a little mishap there, but it's okay. But anyways, press that nail file firmly against the nail tip. Make sure that it's parallel, and by parallel I mean hold it straight against that nail tip, so that way you're not rounding out the shape. It's just nice, straight, and crisp. And here is the finished look. We have a nice pointy super stiletto. Okay, I love the stiletto. So this is now ready for application. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to the next shape, which is the tapered square. So tapered square and coffin are very much alike in shape. The only thing is tapered square is a much more wider than coffin, of course. So the same steps that we applied to get the coffin nail shape is the same steps that we're going to apply to get the tapered square nail shapes. The only thing is we're not going to have our nail clipper angled like how it was for the coffin because we're not going in that narrow. Here you just want to hold that nail tip at a very, very slight, almost straight type of angle, and you're just going to trim off the ends just a little bit because again, tapered square is much more wider than coffin, so you don't want to just chop off a whole bunch of that nail tip. You just want to just trim off a little bit to where it looks like it is coming inward, but it's still maintaining that square shape, of course. So again, you are going to have clients with a preference, clients who are going to want it a little bit more inward, and clients who are going to want to maintain that actual square shape to where it looks like you didn't even really shape the nail. But it's all a preference though. And now that that's clipped, we're going to go ahead and shape the nail. So again, with tapered square, it's all about preference. Like I said, you're going to have clients who are going to want it a little bit more narrow, almost as if it's going into a coffin. And then you're going to have those clients who are going to try to more so maintain that square shape. So it's going to be a lot more wider than what you see here. But it's all about preference. Even you're going to have a preference, but when it comes to clients, always ask, always check, hey, do you like the shape so far and things like that, because you just don't want to assume that they're going to like what you like, even though they looked at your social media, even though this may be your signature shape. You're never going to assume that they automatically like what you like. Some people come to you because they know that you can get this design done and this design done and your shape is nice, but just because they come to you, just don't assume that they're automatically going to want what you want. So always ask, do you want it this thin or this wide? Things like that. But here are the 3 shapes. So on our very left, we have coffin, and in the middle is stiletto, and then right here on the right side, on the end, is our tapered square.